Brett, and this is Are You Shitting Me? Something I learned while avoiding real responsibilities, like recording episodes of AYSM. Today's episode is all about some of the biggest musicians in history, not the they sold a lot of albums version, though. I'm talking about the kind of stories that make you go, wait, are you shitting me? Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the genius who loved poop jokes. Yeah, we're starting classy. Mozart, arguably one of the greatest composers ever, was writing symphonies before most kids learn multiplication. But here's my favorite fact they don't teach you about in class. He was obsessed with poop humor, like aggressively obsessed. Mozart wrote letters to his family that included lines like, "I shit on your nose so it runs down your chin." Classy. He even composed a song, which I can't say it, it's in a foreign language, but it translates to, "Lick me in the ass." So next time you hear some elegant Mozart piano piece, just remember, this guy was basically the 1700s version of Chuck when he was in middle school. Let's move on to the king himself, Elvis, one of the most famous humans to ever exist. But his ending? Not exactly glamorous. Elvis died in 1977, found face down on his bathroom floor in Graceland. Yeah, the king of rock and roll, taken down mid-bathroom visit. This is crazy. The autopsy revealed he had been severely constipated for 4 months. Not weeks, 4 months. Years of prescription drug abuse had basically shut his digestive system down entirely. So yes, one of the most iconic performers in history was possibly taken out by 4 months of backed up business. From sold out arenas to that. You cannot talk about music history without the Beatles. Check out our previous episode with Chuck, Aaron, and I talking about the Beatles. You cannot talk about music history without the Beatles. At their peak, they were so big, they basically broke society. In early 1966, John Lennon said in a newspaper interview that the band was more popular than Jesus. In England, nobody really cared. The article barely made a ripple. But then an American teen magazine reprinted the quote that July, and suddenly it was like somebody lit a fuse. Radio stations banned their music. People held public bonfires of Beatles records. Full-on bonfires for vinyls. Lennon had to hold a press conference to publicly apologize, just so the band could finish their American tour without someone doing something worse. Imagine barely remembering you said anything, and 5 months later, people are lighting your albums on fire in the streets. Now, let's talk about a classic. No, that should be, let's talk about classical, as in music. Ludwig van Beethoven, is one of the greatest composers who ever lived. He wrote 9 symphonies. 9. The last one, Symphony number 9, the one with the Ode to Joy, is considered one of the greatest pieces of music in human history. Here's what's cool. By the time he composed it, he could barely hear. He had been slowly losing his hearing for nearly 30 years. He would bang on piano so hard trying to feel the vibrations through his hands that he kept snapping the strings. He wrote the 9th Symphony almost entirely in his imagination, working out every note, every instrument, every chorus in his head, because his ears couldn't be trusted anymore. At the world premiere in 1824, Beethoven was on stage. He was moving his hands, keeping time, turning the pages of his score. The orchestra played, the chorus sang, and the audience went absolutely insane. Standing ovations, 5 rounds of applause, people weeping, hats and handkerchiefs waving in the air, and Beethoven kept his back to all of it. He didn't know it was over. He was still conducting music that had already stopped. A singer had to walk over and physically turn him around so he could see the crowd giving him the greatest ovation of his life. One of the most celebrated pieces of music ever written by a man who couldn't hear his own standing ovation. Michael Jackson might be the most globally famous entertainer ever, and he wanted more. In the 1990s, Marvel Comics was basically broke, drowning in debt, about to file for bankruptcy. And Michael Jackson saw an opportunity. He reportedly sat down with Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man, the Avengers, the X-Men, and told him he wanted to make a Spider-Man movie and possibly star in it himself. Interesting. Stan Lee told him the rights weren't his to give. Jackson would have to go to Marvel directly. So Jackson's response, according to Lee, was something like, "Fine, then I'll buy Marvel." He actually tried to purchase the company, the entire company, and it fell through. Marvel later turned itself around, and Disney bought the whole thing in 2009 for $4 billion, and it turned it into the biggest film franchise in history. The same year Michael Jackson died. He just wanted to be Spider-Man. So there you go, 5 of the biggest musicians in history, and somehow the stories include poop jokes, 4 months of constipation, record bonfires, not record bonfires, but bonfires of records, a composer who could barely hear, and a pop star who tried to buy an entire comic book company just to play Spider-Man? Music history is way less refined than people pretend it is. If you learned something today or questioned humanity a little bit, that means we're doing it right. I'm Brett, and this has been Are You Shitting Me? Something I learned while avoiding real responsibilities. Cheers.
Here's something I learned while avoiding real responsibilities.